our one guy here. This is great. You know? I think it's here. You can have that. I got this one here. All right. So we're waiting on Julie. Okay. Oh, Jeanette. Okay, we're done. Jeanette can share with someone. All right, so we thought we'd do a little bit, it's not a formal ceremony, but something a little bit more of a container. So it's just not just milling around. But I want to welcome you all here, and I would now have Debbie say the opening prayer.
So I also want to thank you all for coming, and thanks to Helene for helping put this together energetically, and to Julie for her beautiful photographs, and to Betsy for hosting us in her beautiful studio. But I wrote a prayer just to kind of get us started, and so Heavenly Creator, we ask that you bless our gathering today as we remember and honor your daughter Elena, and we lift her name up to you in prayer, in gratitude for the person and the artist that she was, and for the ways that she touched us. May her memory and legacy continue to be a blessing to generations of dancers, and in remembering her, may we also remember all of the dancers who came before us to light our path, those who are still with us and those whose earthly life has ended. We thank you for the blessings of dance and music that have brought us together in this lifetime, and that continue to bring joy and beauty to our lives, as well as lifelong friends. In your name we say, amen.
So we're going to do a little elements invocation, and that is your first chant on here, and it's very simple, and it goes like this. The earth, the air, the fire, the water, return, 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 return. The earth, the air, the fire, the water, return, 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 return. Aye, away, 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 aye, 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 away, away, aye, away, away. You ready? So ready, and the earth, the air, the fire, the water, return, return, return. The earth, the air, the fire, the water, return, return, return. Yay, 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 ayo, ayo, ayo. Yay, 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 ayo, ayo, ayo. The earth, the air, the fire, return, return, return. The earth, the air, the fire, the water, return, return, return. Aye, 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 ayo, ayo, ayo. The earth, the air, the water, the fire, return, 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 return. The earth, the air, the water, the fire, return, return, return. Aye, 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 ayo, ayo, ayo. Aye, 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 ayo, ayo, ayo. The earth, the air, the water, the fire, return, return, return. The earth, the air, the water, the fire, return, return, return. Aye, 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 ayo, ayo. Aye, 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 ayo, ayo, ayo. And to the spirit that connects them all. Is anyone allergic to incense? Okay. Sometimes you have somebody who just flips out. Yeah. And so I welcome all the elements that have created the three-dimensional reality that we live in. And of course the spirit that connects them and alchemizes them all into making us who we are. And now, since this is Day of the Dead, Halloween, Samhain, Dia de los Muertos, and Old Souls Day, I would like us to remember all of our belly dance ancestors. All those, and doesn't, I mean, it could be Little Egypt, way back then, to the present, all those who we've been inspired by, or we loved, or we just even heard about, but made a mark on this beautiful art form. So, let's remember them, and I will start. I remember Tambra, event producer extraordinaire. Just call it out popcorn style.
Dossie had us, we brought belly dancing at the seminars here
Yes.
to Austin when she moved from
Yes.
California. And got me started doing seminars.
Dossie, some of you didn't know Dossie, but she was a powerhouse here.
Mora Saeed, who was my first Egyptian influence, died a few years ago.
There's plenty of them, so call them out.
Bird Valadine.
Bird Valadine.
Maya.
Maya's alive.
She went before us, right?
Well, what are you asking for?
No, they have to be dead.
Oh, they have
They have to be dead. Take that one back. No, these are ancestors. Tambra passed 4 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
Vashti.
Vashti.
And she passed, her and Vashti passed within a week of each other.
Oh,
Who?
that's
Yeah,
right.
Vashti.
Who and Vashti?
Tambra and Vashti. Vashti, an exquisite dance. I'm gonna cry thinking about it. An exquisite dancer.
Weren't they like that? But
Yes.
those two were very close.
One died, then the other one died.
But I mean, they were close friends.
They were close friends and they, I think they died together. I mean, in spirit, yeah.
And Mahmoud Reda.
Mahmoud Reda, who influenced, tell us, he influenced the dance scene in a big, very theatrical, kind of sophisticated way and very creative. He was a very creative innovator. And
He elevated it.
he was a dear man. We sponsored him twice, and he was a lovely person. I really, really enjoyed his company.
Oh,
Who?
Jamila.
Jamila Salampour, also a huge powerhouse in this scene.
Hosam Ramsey?
Hosam Ramsey, of course. I still use his music all the time in my classes. That guy is a killer drummer. He was wonderful that way.
My sister Deanne.
Oh,
What?
You said sister Deanne.
Your sister Deanne Hargis, who we loved and adored, and I still have her costumes in my closet. Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful artful person. Those of you who didn't know her, she was something else, and she could whip up something for you that you look great in, and she was a striking dancer, just absolutely striking dancer.
Harry Soroyan's music.
Harry Soroyan, yeah. Bobby D, yes.
Bobby Farah.
Bobby Farrar.
Bobby Farrar. Oh my God, Bobby. My first class is with him, but man, I love that guy, and he actually wrote a little article on me.
Oh.
Yes, a featurette is what he called it.
In his magazine?
Yes.
Video magazine?
Yes, in his Arabesque magazine. And I'd like to also mention Carla Lopez aka Nakla, who I sponsored here once, who made my very first an extraordinary bead worker before all the bead costumes were really great. She made my first costume and she passed away this year, and to honor her I had the costume revamped and I actually wore it again. So I was real happy to wear that costume again.
Wasn't she part of your Blue Wave show?
She was the featured artist at the Blue Wave show in 1985. Yeah, you bet.
Desdemona.
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 Had the most killer abdominal muscles and she could roll quarters, but she could, I don't know, she had this like an animal living in there. She could just move it around. She was phenomenal with her abdominal work.
Fantastic sense of humor.
Yes, and lots of fun. And Debbie Shield from the Sarome School. And the one who ran the Sarome School,
Pat Wright.
Pat Wright, I think she passed. Did she pass? She was
I'm not sure.
If you haven't passed yet, I'm sorry, Pat. But she was dying for like 3 years, so I just assumed, and that was like 3 years ago, that she did pass. She kept that studio going, and this is a Houston studio. It was pretty amazing.
Deanne of Light Rain.
Deanne of Light Rain, yes. Deanne, I mean, where would we be without the light rain music that we us older dancers were studied on?
That was my first solo.
We used all that music, yeah, it was so incredible. I'm sure there's plenty of other dancers that may not be in our minds. Go through your Rolodex. Oh, Shimmy from San Antonio, a dancer I didn't know very well, but her name was Shimmy.
And Elena Lentini from the Bay Area, she was one of the first to record.
What's her name again?
Elena Lentini.
Elena Lentini. Okay, I did not know her. And then of course there's all of those greats, Samia Gamal, Nadia Gamal. They're all of those early dancers from the 20s, 30s, 40s, and Madame Badazmi. How do you say her name?
Nadia Masabni.
Nasabni.
Nadia Masabni.
I always think it's like wasabi or something. But yeah, she started the first nightclub that really popularized belly dance, the whole belly dance look and the music and everything. Any musicians that we know of, they don't have to be dancers, but they could be ancestor musicians.
Satrak Sarkisian.
Oh, C-Track.
Yes.
C-Track.
C-Track. And
Hi. Oh, right, Mario.
Hi.
Hyde, yes, can you say his name again?
Hi. Oh, hi.
Hyde, I've heard his music, Hyde Minukian. And they're, what? Dusty! Dusty had a rainbow tattoo.
With
right
a
on
star.
And a star right on her.
It was the first tattoo.
Tattoo that many of us had ever seen. Dusty. Anita. Anita. Yes, Nita Bolden. Another great Austin belly dancer who was just dancing into her 80s, and she always looked fabulous. I don't know how she did it.
She did till the day she, I have a picture of her in the hospital. She's got full makeup on.
Yeah, she always looked good. I never saw her not look
And it was
super
the day
good.
before, that night they said that she had passed.
Yeah,
Full makeup.
yeah. Can anyone think of anyone else? And yes.
Isadora Duncan.
Oh, Isadora Duncan. Oh, please, how could our classical namesake? Yes, so many of them, and Loie Fuller, and
Tahia Carioca.
and yes, all of them. These were the early ones since there were photographs. And we can't forget, what was her name? You know, the first belly dancer at the World's Fair, Little Egypt. Little Egypt. She's caused a stir. She was like a huge influence, just incredible. So all of them, and any of our dance, we'll open it up to musician ancestors that we've forgotten. Please do come, and I'm welcoming here. I will tell them they can leave after this is all over, so they don't come home with us. But they can party, whatever. And of course, the wonderful Elena Lentini. And so, what?
If you're gonna be haunted.
Yeah, really. So Debbie, do you want to talk about the stories? Tell it.
Well, I could probably talk about Elena for a long time.
So these are stories to share.
But I thought, well, I'll start from the beginning, which is the very first time I saw her. You know, Elena, a lot of you were probably there. It was 1991, and Lucila brought her. And I had only been dancing for maybe, 10 months, 11 months. It was a very short time, maybe a little longer, but Lucila was my teacher. And it was my first big show, because up to then I had only ever gone to Mirage. So, anyway, I knew nothing about nothing. I just was a very baby beginner, but I saw several people for the first time that night. One of them was Helene. She was wearing a pink knit dress, and she was pregnant and dancing. I saw Vashti for the first time, and I probably saw a lot of others, but I'll never forget Elena, because I hadn't seen anything like her, and I still haven't. I remember the first dance she did was at the end of the first half, and I later found out that the song was La Viento de la Reina by the Gypsy Kings, and she was wearing all black, and she had like a purple silk scarf that was kind of bluish iridescent, and she had a fan. And she basically spun for like 7 minutes. Does anybody remember that? That was the first part, and I was like, whoa. But then they had Lucila brought the Sultans. If we remember
Yes,
the
it was the
Sultans,
Sultans.
you know, it was Omar Farouk Tekulek and Ibrahim Turman and a Lebanese keyboard player named Amir Houri, I think his name, or Amin. Do you remember Betsy? Yeah, Amin Houri. And so I didn't, you know, they played for Elena, and I don't remember what she came out to because I probably didn't know enough about Arabic music to even know the tune, but I was dazzled, and it's not what she was wearing and her movements and her whole presence all were of one piece. And she was wearing this black and coppery, and she had like this beaded net overskirt thing, and there's a video of her wearing that costume online, but all I know is that she went from her opening piece like into a nighthawk scene and into her floor work. And then she got up and she did a faster Turkish piece. And then I think she did her hat, the rompompero, that she often liked to close with. And I felt like I left my body during the floor work. I remember I was just like, whoa, these images kept coming at me like archetypal, feminine images. And her lines were so amazing. You know, like, I felt that feeling when you're in the airplane and your ears pop and you feel like you've just popped into another. I felt like I left this plane and I was taken out into a timeless place. And I think that's why I never forgot it, because I felt like my DNA was rearranged. And from then on, I had this, if anyone ever asked me, do you have a favorite dancer? It was no hesitation. And there are many dancers I love and many teachers I love, but she was like the purest example of artistry. And that night she broke her cane. Does anyone remember that? She did cane too, and she broke it. When she did that, I was like, wow! I felt like it was like Pete Townsend. Remember he used to That was the first time I saw her. But should I stop now?
No, you can.
I mean, I'll take it a little bit more to the present. After that, you know, I did fortunately go to New York as many times as I could to study with her. And two of those times I went with my friend Julie from Dallas. And it was never a lot though. And when she did a weekend workshop, I would go. We went to Baton Rouge and to Albuquerque and to any place that was nearby. And that's how, you know, I wouldn't say that we were like super close personal friends, but we knew each other. And even wrote a few times because she was a writer of notes, as Jeanette brought one of her notes here, and a very gracious person. And during the pandemic, we reconnected, as I did with many dance friends I had lost touch with. And so I was shocked to find out that she texted. And I just remember thinking, Elena texts people? To me, it was like hearing that like an angel is using text messages. And not only that, but she used emojis. And she used the little green fairy emoji a lot. She was like, oh, Debbie. And so we had some phone calls and we caught up with each other. And she had moved from New York to North Carolina for a number of reasons and through a long series of events. And she was a cat person, and she had rescued so many cats from the Coney Island boardwalk. And she was feeding them. There was a TNR colony she was helping with. And she had moved like 8 of those cats from New York to North Carolina. And interestingly, I had just moved my mom's 11 cats, many of which were from the feral colony from Austin to Baltimore, Arkansas. So once we started talking about cats, that was we were sharing cat pictures, and she was just, I would say, I guess there's so many other things I could say about Elena, but she, in all that she was as a person, she was so dear, so kind, modest, humble, for an artist of her stature. It was just unbelievable. And I remember, I'll wrap it up, guys, but I remember one time I was in New York with her. I don't think we were there together, but I was like talking to her. I said, you know, I'm really struggling because some of my fellow dancers, they're starting to like promote themselves, and I'm not comfortable with it. You know, like I never, and and still am not comfortable with like self-promotion. And she's like, you know, Debbie, you can do it your way. You know, just do it your way. You don't have to do. And so the next day in class or whatever, she brought me a press kit. It was like a white folder, and it had her pictures in it and her bio. And she's like, this is what I give people. If they ask me, I give it to them. And so, like, and that is like something that to me made her so unique in the field of dance. That she was such a fine artist. But she would never talk about herself, very uncomfortable with compliments. She didn't want to hear accolades. She was like, oh, thank you. But she was, those two things coexisting in the same person to me was so beautiful that I'm sure y'all remember that about her too. But I hope my story wasn't too long, but
No, it's perfect.
you know, I truly, Elena, love you, and I thank you for being such an example. And if I had even a fraction of her beautiful dance ability in this finger, I would be happy with just that. But she's always there. And I remember once, and she was a teacher to, she was my teachers. When I found out that she was a big influence on Helene and on Dunya, I was like, wow, the dancers that I really loved her too. It made it even more special. I remember once in New York, I went to Faisal's and I saw an 8x10 of you and Kathy Mattia on the wall. I was like, oh my God, and there's Moya. So, you know, I feel connected to her through all those ways too, because my teachers also loved her. And so her legacy is, I hope it will endure. I hope new generations of dancers will discover. But as long as, I feel like as long as I'm remembering her, she'll still be kind of with us in spirit, you know? So I guess I'll wrap up now. We have some beautiful video to show if you guys can stick around to see it. But anyway, thanks for listening to my stories about Elena. I truly loved her, and I'm glad we're here remembering her together. So.
Other stories. You can stand up or you can stand.
Okay, I know a lot of people think I'm known for Vail. Okay, well, where I got it from was from Elena. I found out that Amaya took from Elena and was absorbing everything Elena had to say about Vail. So I made sure I got to see her the first time, and I think it was that same time you're talking about. One of the things that was, I thought, so amazing is, because she went to Juilliard, right? Which, you know, is like the holy grail for anybody in the arts. Even if you're not in the arts, it should be the holy grail, right? Anyway, so she went there. But yeah, she did not have that personality that, you know, you would think that she's this great dancer. No, she just was Elena. That, you know, she just was that. But one of the things that I remember, and I think it was from that same time you saw her, she did this, when she did floor work, it was mesmerizing. And at one point, she was on the ground, on her stomach. She had her legs in the air.
Yes.
And then she's just crawling, and the music was that, it's, look at it. Okay, it was just so emotional, and it's that, you know, reaching for something that you desire, not like a thing, but a person, like love or something, I don't know. But she was just going across, and then she'd whip her head up, and that hair would fly up, that jet black hair, and then it'd go down, and she'd reach out and crawl. And it just, like I said, it was just mesmerizing. Then I actually got to take from her when Dossie brought her for Shimmy into Spring at the Fireman's Hall. I'm glad we got out of that place. And that's when she taught, she was doing Suleiman the Magnificent. I think it was at Carnegie. Okay, it was either she had just come from there or it was kind of like a practice on her way going. And it was a 4-yard veil. And she started all wrapped up, okay, and in a pose. And then the music, and she unwraps and she dances, and like the statue comes to life and just, you know, full of life. And then she ends and she's all wrapped up again, exactly the way she was wrapped to start with. and in that same pose.
Wow.
My mouth is drooping.
And it was a classical statue from
It was
years
that
ago.
statue from
Yeah.
the Metropolitan Museum of
Yeah,
the
it
Art
was
with the dancer like
Yeah.
around.
Yeah,
From
and it
400
was
BC.
just incredible, and so, man, I practiced. Never came out exactly the way she did it, but I did my best. Okay, we all know choreography is not my strong suit, but anyway, a lot of that worked. I took from her again, I think it was in Dallas, when Tambra, I think, brought her. And the thing that I got, you know, when you're a beginner, it's all about the count, right? And the rhythm. You gotta know where the, you know, the doom, doom, doom. And then you get the doom, doom, tack, tack. We got that, okay. You know, it's all those little pieces so that you know what to do, right? That's not how she heard the music at all. I mean, she kind of did, but she mostly didn't. And I remember we were doing this one thing, it's some kind of move that she would do, you know, and you're doing your arms and you kind of go across, and at some point you do a little hop, skip thing, you know, and come down. We're doing it over and over. None of us are getting it. None of us are getting it. So finally, Big Mouth says, Elena, what is the count on that little hop? Okay. You know, I never mocked it. What? Mocked it? She never made fun of it? And then finally, I mean, we're all stunned because we don't know what she just said. Because partly we couldn't hear her. She always was so withdrawn in a way. So giving, but withdrawn. And finally we realized, oh, she didn't count it. She didn't mark it. And so then I quit counting and really started listening and feeling the music. Okay, yeah, there's times you need to know the count, you need to know when to, you know, do your hips and everything, but then there's a time when it just flows. And I really got that from her. And I think that's also why her veil was so exquisite, because the veil was always there with the proper accents, and she would do it, and you know, and then going against it. I don't know, it was just incredible. But she had a terrific sense of humor. I have to tell one more little story. Those of you who remember Bonnie, okay? Bonnie Hill, all our beautiful silk veils, okay? And so she was, we were in Dallas, and Bonnie had all her stuff out, and she had started doing a different way of doing her veils. And so Elena walks up. You know, she was a very tactile person. I think she made all of her costumes. All of the coins that were on it, she would drill the little holes and do the stuff and put it all together, okay? And so she'd been working on that, and she comes over, and Bonnie's got all her different veils hanging up, a whole bunch on the table. And she comes over and she grabs this one and she's rubbing it, okay? I mean, just really caressing it and everything, very gently, but definitely feeling it. And she goes, Bonnie, I didn't know you was working in boys.
Oh, say that again?
That's what we said. And we did the same thing. We all kind of leaned toward her. Because her voice was always so soft. And she goes, what? And she goes, I didn't know you was working in gauze. Bonnie stands up, leans across the table and goes, what? And I'm standing kind of behind her, and I went, oh, it was a gauze veil. Okay, she was doing gauze. She was, instead of silk, now it was silk gauze, but you know, the real meshy stuff. Okay, and I said, she didn't know you were working in gauze. Oh, but yeah, she was an incredible person. She really was. She was so, like I said, to be so giving and yet so like an introvert type person, it was just amazing. Mm-hmm. And yeah, anything I do is like, you know, it's like from the goddess to Elena to a Maya to me. It just kind of flowed, and then when I was able to take from Elena, it was just, yeah, so that's my story.
Thank you.
Anyone else have anything they want to share about Elena?
I'll go.
Yes.
Everyone, Julie is the one who took all these amazing pictures and photographs of Elena.
And
Yes.
yes.
A lot of them
Oh,
are mine.
I'm excited to share them with you. Now, not all of them are mine, some of them are from other things.
Like
and-
3.
But anyway, I'm glad you enjoy them. So I'm from Dallas, and I studied with Vashti for 25 years, and went to lots of timbre seminars, and so that's where I first saw Elena, and I keep trying to remember what it was like, and Debbie explained it so well, but I don't remember that part. But I think I must have been struck so dumb by seeing her. All I could think of was, when can I see her again, and how can I have more exposure to her, and I want to learn from her, and I want to absorb what she's bringing to us. And her artistry was so profound. The way she interacted with the music, to me she was always, and you all have kind of said this, she was always inside the music. And you know, she wasn't the kind of dancer who's looking at the audience and, you know, waiting for the applause, or, you know, hoping for approval and that sort of interaction. She was inside the music, and she was doing her thing. And she would come out and look at us sometimes, but then she would go back in. And I love that about her, because it was so authentic.
And she took us in with her.
And she took us in with her, and was showing us what the music was like from the inside out, in her experience of it. But to me, she was one with the music. It's like she was in another dimension, a creative dimension, and at one with the composers and the musicians, especially the live musicians, which we've got some videos of her with the musicians, which, you know, if we have time and you want to. I love that subtlety of, you know, she does her arm a little like this, and the guys are watching her, and they know that it's about time to wrap that part up, and I always love seeing that. But yes, I was always so in awe of her, and just kind of like in junior high with the cute boy in class. I was kind of, and I didn't know what to say. I didn't know quite where she was. It was in a different place than me, and I wanted to be there, but I just feel like I'm caught up in all this reality, and wasn't really where she was. So I was just trying to absorb it and trying to get in that place too. And I revered her so much that I couldn't even really try to be much of a friend. I wanted to be more of a friend, and I talked to her on the phone some way back before we had mobile phones and stuff, and we wrote a little bit, and she told me about her apartment in New York, which I hope you'll talk a little bit about that to me, like you might have a story for us. But she had a loft bed, and she loved cats, and she had this giant cat, and she says, and he attacks me in the bed. He's a beast. But she was saying over and over again, he's a beast. I can imagine her with this giant cat pouncing on her in some sort of elevated bed. But then, you know, you were talking about her costumes and that chainmail look. And in New York, they were talking about that too at her memorial. Her grandson was there. She has some adorable grandsons. They're grown-up men, but they're adorable. And I was talking to one a lot, and he says, yes, he used to go visit her at her apartment in New York and stay with her for the summer. And she would take him for dance things, and they'd go to the beach, but he'd stay in her apartment. Well, that apartment has the bathtub in the kitchen, which I'm sure Helena is all about, but it's such a New York feature. And she had that, and of course, when she told me she had that, I was like, really? You know, I'm from Texas. I don't know. You know, it was new for me, but it's like, well, okay, if Elena has it, it sounds really interesting. And she told us that she had made that chainmail stuff, and he was telling me, yes, she had a drill press attached to that bathtub in the kitchen. And that she had first made, the first version was with pennies, but that it was too heavy to wear for dancing, so she had to find another kind of coin. But just to imagine her, because to me she's so ethereal. She's not of this world, but she'd have to be of this world to get a drill press. You know, I mean, Faisal is such a man about town, you know, maybe he helped her with that, I don't know, maybe he located it and attached, I don't know. But to see her, to try to envision her doing something so practical, and having little pliers, and putting that together and fitting it, it just, I have trouble merging those worlds when it comes to Elena. And that's all a good thing, you know, but I never could, and so, a few years ago, before Elena died, of course, Debbie gave me Elena's phone number and told me that she texted, and I was still just the same way I was in 1999, just, I don't know what to say to her, and I don't want to bother her, and what you know, and so I never reconnected with her, and I'm sorry I didn't because I lost out, but that doesn't mean that I don't love her, and I miss her and miss the possibility that I could see her again, and I miss the possibility that I could talk with her again. So then I just kind of try and talk to her a little bit before I go to sleep when I get into an alpha state. And I asked her to tell me what to talk about today, and I guess this is it.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad everybody was here and that we could all talk about Elena this way. And thank you, Helene, for getting us going. It's a wonderful gathering. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mila, did you want to just say, you don't have to get up, you can talk from there.
I actually had not very limited connection to her. Was lunch one day. I was a vendor for all those years, and I never could eat lunch at lunchtime. So I'd go mid-morning or afternoon. And I believe it was in Oklahoma City. And I think there were 2 other vendors. I believe it was Audrina, myself, and I don't remember who else, and Elena. And we were eating together. And she was talking about her apartment. And she described it what we would call a shotgun. It was just one room opened into the other. But the bathroom was down the hall, not in her apartment. But she was so very proud that she had a window in the back room that she could crawl out of and get to a little patio in the back. And this was so, you know, I guess it's nearly sacrilegious to say, but it took me a while to mature myself to get what she was doing. To me, dance is a joyful giving to the audience. I feed from the audience. The first time I saw her, I didn't quite get it. You know, she was so, I thought she's too, it was nearly like in flamenco. I love flamenco, but you come out exhausted because they are so intense and so, you know, and I just wanted to stop. Well, let's just, so it took me a long time to really get what she was doing because it didn't hit me the first time I saw her. And, you know, I know I missed very much that time, but it was me. And I had to really develop the maturity to go into the music the way she did. And so it was something very different for me.
Thank you.
All right, I just have one more thing because I had intended to do it earlier, but everybody's talking about how she loved cats. Okay, she was big on anything that, you know, 2-legged, 4-legged, wings, anything. And when we were first doing the shimmies, the Friday night show was always for an animal charity, okay? And so when I was talking to Elena about coming to Austin and being at Shimmy into Spring, I asked her, you know, how much, you know, how you do, you gotta know how much they want for performance, how much per hour, you know, all the other little incidentals, and it came to performing, and she says, I just performed once, okay, and this is my price. And I went, oh. She goes, why? You know, and I said, well, our Friday show is usually for an animal rescue of some sort, some kind of charity. And she thought for a second, and now, you know, then after I knew her a little better, I could just see her, you know, stroking her chin, thinking, and she says, okay, if you will pay me this for my one performance instead of what I originally asked for, she said, I'll be more than happy to dance in the Friday show for the animals. And I said, oh, thank you so much, because more people will come to the show because you're dancing that night. And I said, and we can sell more tickets, which means more money goes to, and we can also pass out other little things and get them. And so I just thought that was so wonderful, because I don't really know of anybody else that I brought that did that. You know, made that distinction. It wasn't, and what I thought was interesting is it wasn't twice what she wanted for one performance, but it was definitely more. Okay, but yeah, she did it, and she did it for the animals. I thought that was so sweet.
Thank you. So I'll make it quick, a couple little vignettes. Elena, there was a moment with Elena in 1980, I'm gonna say 88, something like that. And I had gone to New York and I danced in a show that Carla Lopez, also known as Nakla, was putting on. And there were a lot of people in the show. And I had just produced my Ode to the Elements music, which is like a 17, 18 minute set. And I did that and I was required to have to wear a dress. I remember that because Nakla was her religious things, but she didn't want anyone to bare their stomach. That was her thing. So I was like, oh, okay. So I danced, and after that show, and I had taken class at Faisal's years earlier, and I remember talking to Elena for a little bit here and there, but she came up to me, and I swear to God, she goes, who are you? Who are you? And I said, I'm you know, at that point I was Zealine, and I used to take class here, we talked before. She goes, I don't remember, but you were fabulous. That was fabulous. She goes, I want you to dance here tomorrow night. Because this was a Friday night show, and it was a Saturday, and Faisal's. And I said, she's asking me to come back and dance with the live musicians, because we were all doing, a lot of it was recorded music in that Friday night show. And I said, yes, I'll be here. So Rick was with me. We I don't know, did we take a train in, or how did we get in? Did we drive in?
We trained in Jan's Central Gration.
Yeah, we went to one of those places. Anyway, so we go in, we get there at like 11 o'clock at night. I don't go on as the opening act till 1:30.
Oh my God.
All right? She doesn't go on till 4 a.m.
No.
And I'm not kidding. This was all the time there. Meanwhile, there's music and dance and people are partying and eating and everything. 4 a.m. and she did her, oh my God, her fabulous, the floor work is what always stood out to me, because she was so transporting into another dimension. It was like it just doesn't happen often that somebody, this three-dimensional reality, there's talk of these other dimensions around, which I do believe our beloved departed are at. She could take us there, like invite us into her sphere and take us to this other place, and that was her magic. She was mystical, mysterious, deep, incredibly sexy, all at the same time. And I just loved her so much that when we had our daughter, I named her Elena, to the chagrin of my family. I got in a lot of trouble for that. So to this day, they refuse to call her Elena. They call her Elena because they want to make it Greek. That's my family. But, you know, so Elena, my daughter, asked her to be here, and she had a bunch of stuff with her work, and they had a big Halloween party, and she couldn't make it. But, you know, that's how much she impacted me, because to me, she was one of the truest artists I've ever met, a true artist. So anyway, does anyone else have anything they want to say?
Oh, I have an addendum.
Okay, go for it, go for it.
And we could talk all night.
This is a little bit of a report from the memorial in New York. And they had different dancers, like the old school dancers who all knew her. And they would stand up. They even had people send in things that they wanted to be read for Elena. And it was all moving. But what was interesting was how many people described her as ethereal. Even a musician got did they read about a musician's comments, or one of the guys who was there, I guess, described her as ethereal, which to me was unexpected. And then another woman was talking about her floor work, and as you were talking, Jeanette, she's pulling, and they were just,
the prow of the ship.
yes, the prow of the ship, but that she was pulling the energy out of the earth. And I thought, well, that's one way to describe it, and I thought that was interesting. And after
That's it.
your comments, Jeanette, I wanted to throw that in and just kind of jump on with you. So
Is
that's all.
there a video of that?
Of that, the memorial?
No.
Dancing
Dancing floor work.
Yes, that's on video. So, and I'm sure we can find it tonight.
Okay.
That's over Maya's,
Legends.
yeah.
The
Yes.
second,
It's in a couple of videos, actually.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Long floor.
Yes. All right.
It's all right. Anyone else? I don't want anyone to have a thought in their head if they want to say something.
If you want to see a really good thing too about Elena is the one that Amaya did on the second video of the legends.
I brought it, and I
Did
asked
you?
her permission to show it, and she gave me a little something to read when I showed
Oh,
it.
good,
so-
because the story of her having to kind of like get Elena to allow her to do all this, because she didn't think anybody would want to see it. Why waste all that time and effort?
Yeah, she's actually 2 years.
You know, but yeah.
Okay, so thank you all for those beautiful memories, and you'll see, if you haven't seen her, I know Tino, you've never seen her dance, and Shelley, I don't think you've seen.
video.
Oh, you have seen her on video, okay, but
got to see her.
you never got to see her and say, okay, so we'll definitely have time to do that.
Are you gonna pass a tambourine and we tip her with pastoral money?
So, I want to thank the elements and the ancestors, and now you can look on your hymnal sheet. And join in, or just sing it in your head if you want. We're doing When We Are Gone. When we are gone, they will remain wind and rock, fire and rain. They will remain when we return. The wind will blow and the fire will burn. When we are gone, they will remain wind and rock, fire and rain. They will remain when we return. The wind will blow and the fire will burn. Once more. When we are gone, they will remain wind and rock, fire and rain. They will remain when we return. The wind will blow and the fire will burn. And one more so that we're not too sad. Do not sorrow. Do not sorrow. It's on your back of your page. Do not sorrow. Around and round we go, my friend, into life and out again. Here today and gone tomorrow. We transform, so do not sorrow. Take it up. Around and round we go, my friend, into life and out again. Here today and gone tomorrow, we transform, so do not sorrow. Round and round we go, my friend, into life and out again. Here today and gone tomorrow, we transform, so do not sorrow. And I can honestly say, I know Elena Lentini has a glorious transformation. And to her in the ether realm, in the astral realm, in the whatever realm, we love you. You're not forgotten, because what we remember lives. Thank you all. And ancestors, stay if you want, go if you will. Elements, stay if you want, go if you will. But tonight, we're gonna party a little bit more. Thank you all.